I don't see anyone here yet.
But I do see the live button, so I think that we're live and maybe people will be joining soon. Yeah, and I'm unable to see the number of attendees on.
For me, it says 0 viewers at the moment.
Okay. Cool. Well, we're just hanging out then.
We're just hanging. Have you guys seen any of the submissions so far?
We've looked at a couple. We've gotten, I think, 12 in so far. So that's cool.
That's pretty good for this early, actually.
Yeah, we're 8 days away. So I think 12 is a pretty healthy number for 8 days out.
Yeah.
And we have very close to 500 people registered.
I think the last time I looked, it was 422. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's 495 right now.
Oh, well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, still says 0.
Okay, I think we have one person because a colleague of mine joined and is telling me that the app challenge is backwards. So. Cool. So if anybody has any questions, and feel free to type them into the left-hand side in the Q&A tab.
Oh, I see. Hey, everybody. I'm Joanna from DevPost, and I'm here with Tony of Context.io. And we want to welcome you to the final installment of our virtual office hours. Tony is on hand to answer any questions you have about your project or the Context.io API or just email servers in general.
Or life. Or life.
Yeah, or life. Or anything you want. And you can ask questions by clicking on the Q&A icon in your left-hand sidebar. And we're happy to revisit stuff we talked about in past sessions or cover new stuff. So don't be shy, step up and ask whatever you like.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, I am aware that the Context.io app challenge is backwards. So today I learned that Google Hangouts reverse your own video. So when I'm looking at myself in the corner, it reads correctly, and I think for all of you, it's backwards. So that's something that might be good to know if you're trying to write a little sign in a Hangout. But on the plus side, everybody can see that I'm able to write backwards in block letters. So I'm going to immediately, everybody please endorse me on LinkedIn for writing backward.
Backward block letter cryptography.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a funny story, I taught myself how to write backwards in 6th grade health class because I read a biography on Leonardo da Vinci, and he wrote all of his notes backwards. And so we had to keep a notebook all year. We took all of our notes for health class, and I wrote the entire year of notes backwards. And so at the end of the year, when I turned in my notebook, I got sent to the principal's office because the teacher thought I was possessed by the devil. So
I thought they were going to say that you might have dyslexia, but the devil thing is kind of interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was really confused. I'm like, no, it's backwards. They're like, oh, you poor child. So, yeah, it was interesting. Oh, we do have our first question.
Yes.
All right. So a question from Wang. What if I don't have enough time to submit a working application before deadline, but you believe it's a great idea? So market readiness is one of the criterias that the judges will be evaluating on. So certainly if you don't get done that will probably hurt you compared to other apps that are more market ready. That should not stop you from submitting. Certainly be transparent and clear to the judges on what works and what doesn't work. It'd also be helpful to include some time estimates on how much you think you could get done given a bit more time. Certainly don't work on it anymore after you submit it. You know, the submission period is locked. You won't be able to change your video or anything. We want to keep it fair for everybody. But with that being said, if it's a really fantastic idea and it just needs a little bit of, say, UX polish or minor amounts of work, then the other categories, being innovative and ability to grow, those are different categories that the judges will be looking at as well. So I definitely say, you know, certainly submit your partial app, and certainly try as hard as you can to get it as complete as you can in the following 8 days that we have left in the submission period. But certainly send that in as well. So thank you for the question. Cool.
Hit us up.
Yeah, and that was the end of the story about notes in health class. That.
So after you were accused of being possessed by the devil, did the principal shoot that theory down quickly?
Well, not at first, because I did spin my head around and spit out pieces.
Right.
But after that, I explained I was just sick that day, and then showed everybody in a mirror that no, that the notes work. I even drew all the diagrams, which were interesting in health class in 6th grade, if you know what I'm talking about. I even draw the diagrams backwards. So I don't know.
That's actually pretty impressive that you could do that in real time while you were listening in class.
Yeah, it just kind of clicked. So I can just write backwards now. So that.
You're not trying to code your Context.io app backwards, though.
You know, I bet that there's probably some people out there that might enjoy some kind of backwards programming language or something that might be interesting. Be very difficult. I don't know. That might be fun.
I think it's already challenging as it is.
Well, it'd probably be in the same category as like the lolcat language. Have you heard about that? Have you seen that before?
No.
While we're waiting on questions, I'm happy to drop this in a link to lolcode, which I think everybody will enjoy. I'm going to drop this in the chat section. There we go. The next client library for Context.io will write in lolcode. Yeah.
I could actually attempt this.
It's pretty awesome.
Oops. Let's see.
We're going to switch back to the Q&A tab, see if there's anything else here. No.
So we have a couple of early submissions already in the queue. Is there anything you've noticed about those so far? Oh, we'll pick that up in a second. Here's another question.
Yeah, I'll actually answer your question real quickly first. You know, we don't want to talk too much about the different submissions since they are, you know, private until the submission period's over, and don't want to share the amazing ideas that people have already submitted. But there have been a handful of apps that I think look very promising. I have been waiting to go and do a more formal evaluation until more are in to kind of just batch my time up and stuff. But I have been very eagerly reading descriptions and watching a few videos. So you know, certainly encourage everybody to submit early since you can still edit your submission up until the close date. So submit early. I'd love to see what's happening, and then after things close, then we'll kind of dive in. And I believe it is correct that when the submission period closes, there'll be a couple-day evaluation period where we make sure that all the submissions are valid. And the ones that are valid, those will show up on the dev post page. So everybody will see those just as soon as we are able to validate them on our side. So that's the next exciting thing. After submission period closes, then we'll all get to see the great apps that the people are building.
Yep, and you'll also have an opportunity to vote on your favorites, and your voting actually influences the popular choice winner. So
that's right. That's right. That'll be cool too.
So we have a new question.
Yes. Question is, can you please share details on receipt parsing? Do you need to register anywhere for it to be enabled? No, you don't have to register, but you do have to know the kind of the undocumented secret beta things in order to get the receipt parsing working. We actually posted an update on the DevPost forum. I believe we sent it out to everybody as well, but it was maybe 6 weeks ago. So let me go find that link and share that out. And then after I drop the link in, I'll also talk through it as well for those of you to see. So let me find.
I'm looking for it too.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it was added about 2 months ago, so probably closer to 4 weeks. Cool. So I'm dropping that in the chat section right now. And okay, so receipt parsing right now, it is currently in beta. So what that means, certain vendors might not be recognized. There might be some other issues with it. And also one of the reasons why it's in beta is that the interface to access the feature is a little bit tricky. So when we get feedback from everybody after the app challenge ends, and the team's able to take a second stab at integrating that receipt parsing feature, we will be able to improve the experience for developers to use it. So right now, there's 2 different ways that you can get our receipt parsing to work. One way is if you only care about upcoming purchases. So these are your app doesn't care about anything historical. So say your app is going to look at purchases in close to real time, but you don't care about any kind of historical purchases. Then you would use our webhooks. So our webhook feature for receipt parsing, we have a parameter, I believe it's called include parsed receipts. Let me check that out. Filter parsed receipts with underscores in between. You set that to 1 as an optional parameter when you post to our webhooks resource. And what that does, that webhook will only fire if we identify that email is a purchase, and we're able to parse that receipt. And in the body of that post, when we push that notification to your app, then you will get the structured parsed data about that purchase in the receipt. And again, if you make that webhook, it'll only work on future emails that come in. So if you do that, you just make a new webhook after you link up your user's account, maybe using our Connect tokens. And then the webhook, now it will only fire if we're able to parse a receipt. So it's not going to give you every email coming in. If you want to do that, then you'll have to set up 2 webhooks, 1 for every email coming in, and then 1 with the filtered parsed receipts set to 1, and that one will fire just the parsed receipts. So with those 2 webhooks, you will get 2 posts for each purchase email. Just 1 will not include the parsed receipt, and that one will get the rest of them. If you care about historical receipts, this is a little bit trickier. When you add users to your app, if you want historical receipts, you're unable to use our Connect tokens because you have to add the user in a very specific way, and that's what fires off the historical parsing. So what happens when you link up an account with Connect tokens in our 2.0 API is the first thing that happens is that we do a sync of all of your users' email headers. That's what powers a number of features. So that the user signs up, we trigger a sync, and then we start it at the first email that we see, and we go back in time until we see the entire email account. So the way that the historical parsing works is during that initial sync, you have to essentially tell us that you want us to share purchase data as we do that first sync. Right now, there's no way to go back after you add the user and to get that historical data. Those are the kinds of things that we'll be making easier to use as the receipt parsing feature comes out of beta. So it's a very specific thing right now where you would have to do a post to our account resource to make a Context.io account for your user. Then you do a post to create a webhook with that filtered parsed receipts set to 1. And then once you have the empty account with no email account on it, a webhook setup that's waiting for you that knows that you want to get parsed receipts, then you can do a post to add your user's email account as a source. So it's a 3-step process. With that webhook defined filter parsed receipts, and then you add that email account, when we do that initial sync looking back in time, with that webhook looking for parsed receipts, then we'll fire that webhook off every time we see a purchase as we do that first initial sync. So you're able to get the full history of purchases, but it has to be done in that way, and you're unable to use Connect tokens, since Connect tokens handle that adding the source, adding the account first and then the source automatically for you. That's where we handle all of that complexity. If you want the parsed receipts, you have to do that yourself. So you can't use the Connect tokens. You'll have to do those 3 steps manually. But all of that for both different methods is outlined in that post, in the update section on the DevPost site that I just linked in there. So take a look at that. There's no other whitelist. There's no other thing that we need to turn on for you. Right now, it's essentially just like an undocumented feature that's in beta. So that should get you parsed receipts. So we have a follow-up question as well. So do we have any REST API calls to receive receipt details similar to fetching emails? So right now, no. We don't. And that, again, is one of the things about this feature being in beta. We certainly recognize that the devs would want the ability to say, give me all the receipts with the subject line that matches books or something, right? You might want to do some filtering on those historical receipts and pull that stuff out. We don't have the ability just to do a get because we're not indexing any of the receipts information right now. And that's work that we'll evaluate and see, the best way for us to build that out on our side. So we're definitely taking a very iterative approach with parsing. We're really excited to get people who are participating in the app challenge working on it. We're getting a lot of great feedback already from people that are hacking on that feature. And then we'll use that to really fully build out the receipt parsing feature in the future and make sure that it's exactly what's most useful and what's most functional for our customers. And beyond that, just a sneak peek of what's on the horizon, beyond just purchases and receipts, we will be expanding the parsing to include other kinds of emails. So things like getting travel itineraries out. A lot of times the travel itinerary comes in as a receipt, but right now our parsing doesn't pull things out like starting city, ending city, those kinds of things. So things about getting itineraries, that will be information that you'll be able to define in the future. Other kinds of categories of emails like newsletters, or maybe just filtering emails from individuals versus emails from companies. Those are all things that we've been talking about internally as stuff that we're able to build and work on next. So if anybody has any feedback as to which kinds of emails you would like us to parse out next after receipts, feel free to drop us a line at support@context.io. We'd love to hear from customers, and we want to make sure that everything that we build is exactly what you want to use in your apps. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Cool. That is really helpful information. And I actually didn't know all the intricacies of the receipt parsing, so that was fun for me to hear too. And we have a new question.
Yeah, this one's coming from Dylan. Was wondering how one would grab data about subscriptions, like when Gmail shows the button to confirm a subscription, or would it be easier to perform a keyword search? So this actually is, it ties on nicely to what I was talking about, how we only parse receipts now, but in the future we do want to expand to other categories. So things like newsletter subscriptions, those are things that we do not have any custom parsing right now. So for instance, when you see in Gmail the subscribe or unsubscribe links, that's part of what I think they call it Gmail Actions, is where you can include a little bit and you get a little button right on the line of with the subject on it. They're actually doing that parsing themselves. So that's something that you would have to do that parsing yourself now. But you could look for things that are common to all newsletters. Like, for instance, it is required that the newsletter should have an unsubscribe link at the bottom. So you could say fetch the body and have a regular expression that looks for an anchor tag with the word unsubscribe somewhere inside the anchor tag. That is a pretty good way to identify which emails are newsletters, since they're supposed to have a link to unsubscribe. There could be some other ways that you could look at, say, email headers. The kind of way that I build up that parsing, if I were building it from scratch myself, was I would just look in my own email account. I'd look at things like email headers. There's ways you can use the API to fetch, just to fetch the headers. The headers that you can get through our API are ones that we do process a bit, so they're not the raw headers, but we return them in a way that's a little bit easier to use. It is possible to fetch the raw headers as well. The same information should be in both, but it just depends if say you already have scripts or something that parses raw email headers, or you have an IMAP library that does that, and you prefer to use that rather than navigate the JSON that we return. That's also an option. But what I would do, I would look at a couple of newsletters that I get. There's things that you could look for, like, is there a campaign header, which is something that a personal email wouldn't send out. So a lot of things that email marketers do is they send out emails. And in IMAP, you can specify really any header that you want inside of there. And a lot of times, people that send newsletters put a campaign ID in there. And that's a way that they can then track performance of a certain email campaign. They could link up a series of messages with the same ID, and they could track performance by looking at when they get the tracking pixel back, or those kinds of things. So there might be some custom data in there that you could look at that, in addition to things like an unsubscribe link, or maybe known senders, that kind of thing. And with 8 days left, it sure might seem a little bit daunting to try to build your own kind of parsing, and that's something that I wish that we could say, here's all the newsletters, right? Then it'd be one API call, and it'd be simple. But with 8 days left, it might be a little bit daunting to think about trying to build this whole parsing engine to find newsletters and everything. So what I would really suggest doing would be to look for a few of those common things. Things like the unsubscribe link, things like looking for custom headers, things like looking at known senders. Like a lot of times they send from like no reply at something else. So you might be able to do these queries where you can use Context.io to crawl, do a get on the list messages, and you can also optionally include the body by setting the optional parameter include body equals 1. Then we'll give you the full body of the message right as we're listing them. And then you could go through and take a couple stabs. Does the body contain an unsubscribe link? Is the email sender coming from a maybe one easy pass would be not a Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or any common providers. You could have essentially like a blacklist of the large ISPs and everything, and filter those out right away. You could look at things like custom headers and that kind of thing to try to figure out what you want. Do a couple of stabs at it and get enough of a sample size to showcase your app so that the app is functional, that it works, that if the judges install it or you're able to do a screencast and make a video and show the app functioning. And then in the description, again, I really want to stress transparency in your submission. You could say, my app it is currently covering 100 newsletters, or whatever number that you feel like you can confidently get to with just, we're talking like 4 hours of work, or you can time box it and say, I can only get 5 newsletters, but this demonstrates the value of the app and what it does. And then again, outline, I'm doing it this way. Here's my steps 2, 3, and 4 for how I'll build this out and how we can get this to be more newsletters and cover a wider range of emails in the future. But it'd be great if you could say, look in your own or get friends and family to hook up their email accounts and then say, look, this parsing engine that I wrote in a couple days, it's covering 80 emails. I have a couple of people using the app already, and they are seeing some functionality out of it. The goal certainly is to try to be as close to market ready as possible. But if there's just not enough time right now, getting it to a point where you can demonstrate the value, if it were market ready, and then speak to the next steps it would take. And in this situation, it could be something like, I was able to cover 20 newsletters. I think I remember talking to you in person, maybe during a roadshow stop. So I think I know what your app's doing, but I'm not positive. I'm not going to guess right now. But you could say, I'm sharing 20 newsletters, and the 10 people that I have, here's comments I've gotten back from them that it is useful, and here's the steps that I'll take to build it out further. And that could even say, when Context.io ships newsletter parsing, then I really want to drop this in, so this app will really gain a lot of value as soon as you can lean on us for that kind of stuff. So, but again, just be transparent in your submission and do as best you can with the time that you have left. But thanks for the question.
It looked like a couple of people just joined, so in case that is the case, just to remind you, you can ask questions by clicking on the Q&A icon in the left sidebar. And I'm Joanna at DevPost, and we're hanging out with Tony from Context.io. We've talked today a little bit about how the receipt parsing feature works and what to do if your idea is fantastic, but you're not sure about how ready you can make your app by the deadline. And we were just talking about subscriptions and newsletter parsing. So pony up and ask us more questions, and we'll keep going.
That's right.
And we've also talked about how Tony was accused of devil worshiping in grade school when he took notes backwards in class, but
yeah, that was it was fun. And I was very surprised. Worshiping the devil. Cool. My guess, I went to middle school in the Midwest. So.
Yeah, I gathered it was somewhere in close to the Bible Belt, most likely. But anyway.
Yeah.
What else have people been talking about on the roadshow in terms of their interaction with the API and the projects they were working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so the roadshow ended up covering, gosh, I think it was close to 10 cities in a couple weeks. At this point, it's a big blur. I was all over the place. Like it was mostly just airports, is what it seems like. But a lot of the questions that I got were from people that were having a bit of a tough time figuring out exactly what kind of app they should build. I think it's really common since email is so prevalent, right? It's something that we use every single day. It's hard for people to think about what they can use email data for and not have it be an email client. Not to say that building an email client is a bad idea. There's lots of innovations that I think are needed in email, and you see that with a lot of extensions to, say, Chrome with plugins that add more functionality to Gmail's web client, or you see companies like Microsoft with their Outlook.com. They're pretty constantly adding features to their clients. So nothing necessarily wrong with an email client. There's a lot of apps that I've seen, and again, if you're building one of these apps, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just I've seen a number of apps that are building an email client and bringing in things like text messaging and social media and those kinds of things. So I think there's certainly a demand for building something that's like an email client. But what I told a lot of people on the roadshow is that perhaps some of the real power of an API like Context.io that makes accessing email data really easy is the ability to look at really narrow slices of data. And it's the questions that I got today already are great, asking about pulling out just receipts, or pulling out just newsletters. Those, like, if you think of the different emails that come in as just different kinds of data, a receipt is fundamentally a different kind of data than a newsletter subscription that might have a coupon in it, right? Both come in as essentially plain text. So, the programming side of my brain's like, well, that's the same thing. Plain text is plain text, but then you have semantics. So you have to figure out exactly how people interact with the data. I know that when I see a receipt come into my email account, I don't treat that email the same way that I treat a newsletter. I probably check the receipt. I look for a tracking number because it's probably something that's being shipped to me, unless it was like an iTunes purchase where I already have the thing that I bought. I probably look at a tracking number. I probably check the amounts to be sure that it's valid, that I know what it is. And then I probably throw it away. Maybe I'll archive it, maybe I'll move it to a folder. And that's the last I'll ever really see of that. So, I know a lot of people are working on receipt parsing apps, so I'm sure you're probably going through this exercise. But what is the best app that would help me manage my receipts? Maybe it's probably not an email client, right? Because I'm going to do different things with the receipt than I'm going to do with, say, an email from my mom sending me pictures of my dog misbehaving or something. They're watching my dog. So you can think, okay, just receipts. Maybe we want ability to move this into, say, something like Mint.com or budget software. Maybe for small businesses, that's going to go into some kind of expensing software, maybe some kind of accounts payable, some kind of accounting software. That's a really direct use case, and that's something that'd be tough to build it into an email client. You can think about maybe just the tracking side of things, like shipping. That's another problem that people solve when they look at receipt data. Where's my packages? I don't want to have to go into my email and do a search for Newegg or something every time I want to track, the latest hard drive that I just bought or something. So you can think of these single-serving use cases for data. On the newsletter front, you could look for things like coupons. You could look for things like in-store sales. You could look for things like maybe just abandoning shopping cart emails. Because I know that a lot of online e-tailers do that, where if you have a shopping cart full of stuff and you leave, they might spam you with emails. With those abandoned shopping cart emails. That might be something that you could build a single serving app that just says, hey, what's in my shopping cart baskets all across the web? Like that could be an app that some people would get use out of. They don't, they might use these emails to say, oh, well, what was I doing last week? I was trying to shop for something. Which store was it at? I don't even know. They're trying to search the email that they have no idea. You could build a single serving app that's what's in my shopping cart or something, right? Like, and this is something that I haven't even had this idea before, but you can look at a very narrow type of data that comes into email. Think of the different ways people use that piece of data, and then build a single serving app that deals with it in a very specific way. Whereas email clients, you can think of it like these monolithic apps that try to solve everything that everybody wants to do with email. The reality of it is that that's not how we interact with email today. So, I told everybody on the roadshow who was saying, well, I don't really want to build an email client. I don't know what to build. I would say the stuff I'm saying right now, that there's lots of things. There's hundreds or thousands of apps. We think of all the different kinds of emails that arrive. And the apps don't have to be super huge either. It can be a real small app. In fact, if you're catching this video right now with 8 days left, I'd say a couple of the apps that I even just mentioned, would be within a scope of work of 8 days to something that is, you could probably get even beyond proof of concept. Some other kinds of things like that I've mentioned to some people. I don't know if anyone's building on these apps, but things like call waiting for email, or really smart vacation responders. Most email clients have the ability to set, start at this date, end at this date. Maybe you can send a different message out if it's internal, like a coworker with your same company's domain, or maybe it's not. But what if I have a doctor's appointment and my job is I have to stay responsive to email? I'm not going to set a vacation responder every time I'm away, but there might be an app there, and that's something where it might not take that long to build that, depending on the kind of features and stuff. So there's I know I've been rambling a lot, but going back to the question on what did I get asked during the roadshow was really about app ideation, asking for things that can do an email, and once you start thinking of email as a catch-all, and you start thinking of different emails as different kinds of data, then you think about how people interact with that data, and start from a very high level. You should be able to drill down and come up with kind of an intersection of a problem that people have, and there's no current apps that really solve that problem in a very specific, precise way. I personally think that that in the future, 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, email certainly isn't going away, but how we interact with it is going to dramatically change. So rather than having one app, we're going to see 20 apps that are all accessing our email, and helping us out, help manage all of those problems. So, hopefully there's a number of apps that have been built for this hackathon, the online app challenge, that will be some of those apps that in 5 years are commonplace to our productivity workflow, and help us manage all this data that comes in.
I actually really like that idea about the shopping cart collating thing, because I feel like one of the things in email that is poorly managed right now is just content, marketing content, or journalistic content, or any number of things. Like, I have a subscription to the New York Times cooking website, which is, if you haven't checked that out, it's awesome. Little plug.
I love to cook.
Yeah, and they on a every other day, they send me a new list of recipes that have just come out or that they've collated somehow. And they collect in my inbox like a rain puddle, and then every month or so I have to click through all of them and decide which recipes I want to put in my virtual recipe box. If somebody could build something that it would make it easy for me to just look at the ones that are interesting to me, like, fried chicken and mac and cheese, that would be cool. So
yeah. That's certainly true. I know that I get some emails from Stumble, if I'm trying to waste time, which I try to do as much as possible. It's fun. I go and stumble upon, and then I have a food folder, and I put recipes there. But they also email me content that I think I'm interested in, and a lot of times I get some recipes. They know the stuff that I favorited. So, so I have the exact same problem, right? I think that right now in my personal email account, I think I've starred 3 or 4 recipes that I've just meant to print out and cook and see if they're good, and then I'd save them or whatever. But I think I've had them starred for 3 months or something now. So, clearly, like, my operating system in my own email account is not that great, and I would certainly use an app like that as well. So cool. Well, we have 20 minutes left. So certainly, if I'm rambling about anything at all, and you have a question, feel free to drop it in. We're only here for about 20 more minutes. But certainly over the next 8 days, if anything comes up, you could always send an email to me. It's Tony@context.io, or to our support team, which I'm also certainly get all those messages as well as the rest of our amazing support team who's been doing a fantastic job talking to everybody under very heavy workloads. So I know we're at least getting a lot of questions on that channel, which is great. I mean, we're certainly here to help you out. But if nothing comes up in the next 19 minutes now, don't hesitate to reach out over the next 8 days, or of course beyond. I mean, we're still around after that. The submission period ends, so we'd love to talk to our developers. So don't hesitate to reach out.
I just want to make sure everyone knows you can also post any question or discussion thread on the discussion board on the challenge website. I'll just drop that into the chat board here.
Cool.
Hang on.
That's great, and I just saw we got one more submission during these office hours. So thank you to whoever just submitted. If you're listening.
Wow, good timing. Tony, I just sent that link to you because for some reason the chat box isn't letting me drop it in.
Yeah, I can drop that in. Thanks. I'm also assuming that everyone else can see this chat. It would be funny if, I mean, it wouldn't be funny, but I've been dropping links in during all 4 of these. So I hope that the chat box is something that is visible to.
I hope so too. So one of the things that you mentioned in another office hours, Tony, was one of ReturnPath's earliest products. I don't remember its name, but it was something about determining the trustworthiness of particular IP addresses.
Yeah. So that's something that ReturnPath came out with. I want to say 12 years ago or so. About that, I believe. I think it was around 2002, 2003, 2004, somewhere around then. And it's something called Senderscore, and it's like a credit score for IP addresses that send out emails. So it's how trustworthy that email sender is.
Cool.
Yeah, and it is one. I think it is the industry standard for determining if somebody who's sending emails has a good reputation. So it's something that's still in use today, which is I think pretty cool. I mean, something in tech the last 15 years is it's kind of rare. We tend to move pretty fast in this industry, so it's neat to see something last a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like one more person just joined us. If you're new with us here, feel free to ask questions. We have about 15 minutes left in this office hours session. Just click on the Q&A button on your left-hand sidebar and let us know what you need help with or what you're wondering about. We've been talking about receipt parsing, newsletter parsing, market readiness, getting really narrow slices of data where you can look at very specific things that happen in someone's email, and other fun stuff. So let us know if you have questions.
Yeah, and I said this in every other office hours. I'm happy to answer any question about anything. And if I don't know the answer, I will definitely just make one up, but I will say it with authority. So it will seem like I know the answer to every question. So feel free to test me out in the last 15. If there's no questions about kind of stay over the app challenge, I am here.
You can also always, in addition to emailing Tony, you can reach the DevPost team at support@devpost.com, and we monitor that really regularly as well. So, but we're here for 14 more minutes.
That's right.
Trying to think if anything happened to me in elementary school, but I was really nerdy and never got in trouble. So
I was the nerdiest. I was the nerdiest, and only got in trouble for doing a bunch of nerd things. Like, well, actually, I'll share one thing that might be interesting from my middle school days to a hackathon crowd. One thing that I did not get in trouble for was hiding pirated games on these schools' computers. We actually had, and this is going to date myself, I think, we had something that's called a sneaker net. Anyone hear of the sneaker net before? Yeah, so we actually, one of us would get a new game. We put it on like 5 1/4 discs, like the big floppy ones. And then we'd walk to either the school library where we'd hide the games in a folder that nobody knew about with our amazing DOS skills. And then pass a note in class, the new King's Quest, whatever, is in the dead drop. And then they'd take blank discs and walk there and copy it, and they'd walk home. And so we had a sneaker net to share games.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I got busted for writing my health notes backwards, and I did not get busted for so.
Nice. I wonder how long it took them to figure out that those were there, if ever.
See, what was the guy's name that ran the library? Mr. Scott. I don't think he had any idea, and I don't think he'd be watching this right now. But this is going to be online, so Mr. Scott, if you ever see this, sorry, I'm not sorry. It was cool. Cool. All right, we got another question. And this is one I think for Joanna. It's a question about.
Yeah. So it says, does support@devpost.com give feedback on app submissions? I submitted my app 20 days ago, and I want to make sure that I have everything covered and my app is valid. So we don't automatically provide feedback on app submissions, but if we are reviewing your app and we notice that it is missing something that's essential to be eligible, then we will contact you and let you know. But since you're asking directly about yours, Makeen, I would recommend that you just shoot me an email to make sure we've got you covered. And now that I have your name, I'll make sure I go and look at your submission. But my email is just Joanna, JOANNA, @devpost.com. So just let me know what your concerns are, and we'll make sure that we iron everything out.
Cool. So yeah, so if your submission was done 20 days ago, how's your second submission coming along?
Nice.
Cool. We got about 10 minutes left. That's plenty of time for more questions, or trying to think if I have any more appropriate or semi-appropriate stories from my childhood that might be entertaining / useful.
They don't have to be from your childhood. They could be from your worldwide Context.io app challenge tour.
That's true. Although I'm trying to think, would that be more or less? Yeah, no. So the roadshow was great. I mean, one of the things that I loved about it was certainly getting out to meet a bunch of people. Cool. Okay, we do have a couple questions. I was just reading those. So one person says they can't find the chat box. So again, I'm not sure if you're the same kind of view, since this is a hangout on air. For me, it is on the left-hand side. The top link is looks like a blue chat window. And if you click that, it should hide the Q&A sidebar and should add the chat link sidebar. But again, that might be maybe the chat's only for moderators on Hangouts on Air. I'm not really sure. I apologize if we've been giving you links that you haven't been able to access.
But just to let you know, I think the stuff we dropped in was just the link to the discussion board on the hackathon website and the link to the update about receipt parsing. Is that right, Tony?
Well, and then one link to lol code, whichever one. Unrelated. Yeah, so certainly reach out to me if you can't find the links. You can shoot me an email, Tony@context.io, and I'll be happy to share anything out that you might want. Cool. The next question has a technical question. You want to work around this warning: too many IMAP calls in the last 60 seconds. Max allowed is 30. Cool. So this hacker is getting a warning from us, saying that they're exceeding the API rate limits. Oh, and this person doesn't see the chat box either. So the chat box might just be an internal thing.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Cool. So if anybody can't find those links, certainly shoot me or Joanna an email, and we'll be happy to share those out with you. So back to the rate limit issue. What's happening there is that so we only index the email headers. So a few calls to the API, it actually we have to generate a connection to the email server. So that's a call that generates a new IMAP connection. Now, the IMAP protocol, when it was designed, it was only supposed to get a connection to an email client about once every 10 minutes. The assumption was that emails are generally like a slow thing. Certainly getting notified of new messages once every 10 minutes is way faster than snail mail, which would be once every couple days. So that's how they made the protocol. So what happens is, if one of our developers makes many calls within a short amount of time that have to touch that IMAP server, that generate we generate a call that talks to the server, we could get throttled, right? So the email provider could say, I don't think this is a valid email client because I'm expecting them to talk to me once every 10 minutes. And they're talking to me, for instance, the limit that we have is 30 calls in 1 minute. So that's what we allow. That, honestly, at that level, you probably will get throttled by most email providers. So if that happens, your account, not your API account, but that one user's account will go into what we call a temp disabled state. And that just means that we're unable to connect to that email server, and we don't know why. A lot of times we don't get good error codes back from the email providers. But 9 times out of 10, that is because that account's throttled. So it's only temporarily disabled, it's temporarily unreachable. And then after a couple of hours, that account should work again. That's the reason for that limitation, and that's the reason why it's hard for us to increase that, because that's not really our policy. That is the email provider's policy. And what makes it even more confusing is that that policy is different across every single email provider. So the 30 IMAP generating calls in 60 seconds is the limit that we have, a hard limit on our developers. And like I said, that actually, you will probably get throttled, especially if you keep that up for a couple of minutes if you're generating those kinds of calls. That account will get throttled from the email provider. So, so there's not really any way around it. Depending on what you are trying to do, it might be something where you could possibly maybe increase the limit and or maybe run your calls in serial in parallel. So maybe rather than fetching one message at a time and you're doing a call to fetch one message, a call to fetch one message, that kind of thing, you could say, give me 20 messages and then pause for 20 seconds or something after that, and then use the offset to get the next batch. So I would say just slow your calls down. Certainly you can reach out to me. We can talk more about exactly what your app is trying to do, and I can help you brainstorm as to what other solutions there might be. But unfortunately, that limit it's a pretty hard one. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily help you if we lifted that limit for you, because then you would just get throttled by the email provider also. So I hope that answers your question.
So we have about 4 minutes left, and we'd love to help out with any remaining questions you have. So shoot. And if not, we'll just regale you with more stories about our lives as nerdy students.
Yeah. Yes, I heard from someone else that it looks like the links are not coming up in chat. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it really is. It's just the discussion board. If you go to contextio.devpost.com, you can find the discussion board there. It's one of the links across the top of the screen. And then the other thing that I posted was the documentation that we have on receipt parsing, which if you click on the updates header on the contextio.devpost.com, then and scroll down for a while, you'll see instructions on receipt parsing, and that's the link that I also posted in. And the lolcode link is just lolcode.org. So I think everybody should go there right now, just to take a look at it before you forget that link. So that should be cool. Yeah. So any more questions? We got 3 minutes left. What I was saying just before the last couple questions came in was that I really did enjoy doing the roadshow. One of the things that I get a lot of job satisfaction out of doing this job as senior developer evangelist for Context.io is going out there, talking to people that are building cool things, learning about them, doing whatever I can to help people out. So it was fantastic to have a whole lot of time with developers. We got one more question. So how long does the initial grab work take? Would you have to wait for the request? So I think what this person's asking is that initial sync that happens. So that starts at the present, at the present, and it works back historically through the messages. Depending on the size of the email account, and also based on the load on our servers, we have a queue of sync workers that pull work off and sync those accounts. Depending on those two things, that could take a couple seconds for a very small email account, all the way up to potentially a couple of hours if the account has hundreds of thousands of messages and many people are adding accounts at the same time across our system. Of course, we watch our infrastructure, so we try to manage that queue so there's not a lot of sync jobs in that. But occasionally it does get backed up, so that's why I mentioned it now. So it is a wide range of time, a couple seconds to a couple of hours, depending on the size. You certainly wouldn't know how large your users' email accounts are until that process starts, so it's hard to really even figure out or anticipate what that would be. One of the things that you can do, though, is the second that that sync starts, we will see it, at least momentarily afterwards. We should see a couple hundred messages. So you could actually make API calls as that sync is going, Just the thing is, the API won't be aware of the historical messages that it hasn't synced yet. So, so you wouldn't have to wait that long at all to get some data in. In the JSON response, when you list messages, one of the things that you get is a Unix timestamp that is last time synced. That's something that you could use on the last message that you saw to see the timestamp when we sync that message. So then you can use that as a starting point and filter messages starting there, going back further in time, get another chunk of messages that we've synced, operate on those, and then keep going back in time. You should be able to essentially backfill that historical content and data very quickly after a user adds an account. One more thing that you can do is you can do a get on our sync resource. Not going to bother pasting a link in, knowing that no one can see those links now. But if you do a get on our sync resource, that will give you a timestamp the last time a sync had completed. So that will have no value if it's a new user and we haven't completed a single sync yet. If it's the kind of thing where your user linked up their account and they don't expect to see data right away, or it's okay to have the data come in 10 minutes or in a half an hour, maybe you're going to send them an email at some point in the future saying, hey, we found all this data, take a look at the thing we built for you. You could then just do a query to that sync resource, do a get, and look at that last timestamp. When that initially populates, you know that initial sync had completed. And if you do an API call, you'll be able to crawl the entire history of the user's accounts. So that's a little bit about syncing. And I think now we are out of time.
We are, but you guys asked really excellent questions today, so thanks for hanging out with us. And you have 8 days left. The deadline is September 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we are super, super excited to see what you've been working on. And as we've said throughout the broadcast, you can shoot an email to Tony at context.io or to myself, Joanna at devpost.com, or to one of the 2 support emails, and we will get right back to you and help you out. So thanks so much, and keep plugging, and we can't wait to see what you're building.
Yeah, and I just want to echo the exact same things. I'm sad this is the last office hours that I'll be holding. Always enjoy talking to our hackers and developers, and can't wait to see what everybody submits. We're here to support you up through the submission period. In fact, I'll be flying down to Austin to be with the rest of the Context.io team for the last couple of days of the App Challenge. So we'll all be cheering and rooting for everybody all together down there. So certainly let us know how we can help you out within the last couple of days. And thank you so much for watching the office hours.
See you guys.
See ya. And I'll see you later, Joanna, next time I'm in New York.
Excellent. Okay.
All right, take it easy.